I am now fairly certain and would be completely shocked if I'm wrong to see that this is the last year that Tyler Stephenson will be a Cincinnati Red.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Reds podcast. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network in all the land. Thank you very much for helping make that happen. As always, we are your team every day. My name's Stephen Offenbaker. His name's Jeff Carr. We love the Cincinnati Reds. We love baseball. We love talking about the Reds. We love talking about baseball. We love talking about those things with you, so much so that Jeff and I have been doing it for a combined 16 seasons now. That's a lot of years talking about Reds baseball, but we're happy to do it. On today's show, coming up a little bit later, guess who's going to be ARB eligible next year? Oh, it's a big name. They're going to be arbitration eligible. It's going to be big money. We'll talk about that here in a few minutes. We're also going to get into what the Reds have left to spend this year, because if you look at the numbers between last year and this year, there is still a little bit of money that can be spent. And Jeff has a wild and crazy idea about how they can double down on that and get a Eugenio Suárez. We're going to talk about that coming up here in just a few minutes. But where we are going to start is we learned that the Reds do in fact have a couple players going to arbitration. We're going to tell you who they are and what they're asking for. That's where we will start today's show, that is brought to you by FanDuel. The wild card round is here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. So visit FanDuel, the official sports book partner of the National Football League, and grab your profit to boost pack every NFL playoff game today. You know what? Before we get in, I screwed that line up, and you're going to do the ad read later. And I know that you edited it so that you didn't do what I just did. I'm just calling you out on it, buddy. But where we're going to start, Jeff, is with two Cincinnati Reds players going to arbitration. We learned yesterday that both Graham Ashcraft and Tyler Stephenson decided to plead their case to an arbiter and see if they can get a little bit more cash out of the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah, there's a lot about the arbitration process that we as fans don't understand. There's a player element to this, and I'm sure that some former players could shed some more light on it. But I know, like, I've talked to a couple of former players that were like, man, if the team gave me a good reason to avoid arbitration, I did, because it's just a horrible process to go through as a player, because the whole point of it is the player gives a number, the team gives a number, and then they go to a knockdown, drag out court session to see who wins. There's not a compromise that is had. It is either the player gets his way or the team gets his way. And there is a lot of, fighting, not really fighting. That sounds like overly dramatic about it. But they really break down.
But the team is doing their level best to make the player look bad, so that they don't have to pay him as much, while the player is trying to upsell everything they did to get paid more. And that is a process that clearly will lead to contention if your boss is sitting across the table from you trying to convince a guy how terrible you are.
And what we know is that Tyler Stephenson was approached with a multi-year contract extension before last season, to which he laughed and didn't even offer a counter to. And now we're going to arbitration. That the reports from Mark Feinsand from MLB Network said Tyler Stephenson filed for $6.8 million, and the Reds filed for $6.55 million. So again, $250,000 difference here. And again, this is the details of this just elude you and I as fans, because we've never gone through this process, and that seems very minuscule. But this also seems as though Tyler Stephenson's to the point where he's just like, whatever, dude, I'm getting mine and I'm getting out.
Yeah, that's clearly the direction we're heading. I've been kind of trying to lay the foundation amongst the everydayers for the last couple of weeks, when I've been saying Tyler is the only guy on this team at this point where I'm willing for the Reds to just write out this contract, let him walk away and not get anything for him, because there's no other catchers coming. I can't believe for $250,000 they want to go through the entire arbitration process and go through what they're going to have to go through, which is go into a room and talk bad about Tyler Stephenson. So I'm kind of surprised that the $250 means that much to Bob, that he's willing to alienate Tyler Stephenson.
Not $250. Although $250 probably does mean
$250,000. Yes. But I'm really surprised. Although Bob we understand how the Castellinis are. So this is where we're at. I'm convinced, like you, Tyler Stephenson is gone. That's just the way that it's going to be. We get one more year out of him.
But you also said it feels like if you were to trade him now, it would be at the lowest point of his value, so you're not going to get much for him. So that just does not compute. I mean, and then the catcher room is a absolute mess. As much as I like Jose Trevino, I like him as a backup. I don't love him as the everyday guy or the catcher number one. Catcher number one is Tyler Stephenson. So you take him off this roster and it just looks a lot worse. And then you're really talking about regression for this team next year instead of progression. And that's a no-go. So I'm with you. I thought they would have just went with this. The other thing about this too, and the other side of this, because we talked a lot about Tyler Stephenson, Graham Ashcraft, he filed for $1.75 million. The Reds filed for $1.25 million. So I kind of get this a little bit more because percentage-wise, this is a much bigger gap. Like 500,000 is double what Tyler Stephenson offered, but his was in the $6 million range. This is lower than $2 million. So when you add in 500,000 is the gap, you're talking about a huge chunk of this contract where Graham Ashcraft thinks he deserves more. And so this part, I don't necessarily understand. This is his first year of arbitration. He is going to go through the ringer for one. Maybe he's ready for this smoke, and he seems like a really calm and cool and collected dude. But I know for a fact the Reds are going to roll into that room and say, look, you got called up as a starter and we had to move you to the bullpen. Why do you think that you deserve $500K more than what we're offering?
I think you can look around, though. I think Graham Ashcraft's going to win this. That's my prediction right now. Graham Ashcraft's going to win this. He's going to get that money. And we made the argument for him on yesterday's show. He's going to go in there saying the same things that we said. He's going to talk about FIP. He's going to talk about the fact that it's not his problem that the shortstop behind him led the league in errors. He's going to talk about the fact that there was, so much.
There wasn't a third baseman for 2/3 of the season.
Right. There was big problems defensively behind him, and his individual numbers, the things he controlled, showed that he was better than the statistic the Reds are going to try and quote. So I think he wins this, Jeff. Actually, between the Tyler Stephenson and the Graham Ashcraft going to arbitration, I see why Graham Ashcraft is going and pushing and fighting a little bit, and I think he's going to win.
To be clear, I would like the players to both win because, quite frankly, the money is fake to me, and I don't care how much the Reds have to spend. Just build a winner. And so for me, that's not that big of a deal, but I think of it from the relationship standpoint and what all these guys are going to go through with this, because it is a one-sided affair that the Reds are not going to go into. Whoever it is that represents them in the arbitration, I don't think it's Nick Kroll. I think it's somebody else. But whoever represents them in the arbitration hearing is going to go in and talk about all of the negative parts about Graham Ashcraft. We've heard multiple stories about this, most notably and funny from Sean Casey. We've heard it on social media from other players on other teams, like people going like they came in with stats I've never heard of and stats that people don't write in articles or put on websites.
Tampa. That was in Tampa.
Yes.
Tampa wrote it. I forget the player, but Tampa. Now? Yeah, the Tampa Rays rolled in with they were just pretty much they made up stats that showed a reliever was bad going into the arbitration hearing.
And you guys know how much I love to put together different stats and things like that to really make my case with this. Just imagine this happening in front of the player and them telling them why they can't make as much money as they want to by using all of those stats. So I do think that it's going to be interesting from a relationship standpoint. What does the long-term relationship between Graham Ashcraft and the Reds look like? Again, that's not something that really necessarily we got to worry about in 2026. What's that look like in 2028 is kind of what I'm curious about.
All right. Well, that's the two going to arbitration. We don't know exactly what they're going to be making, but we do know what everybody else is going to be making. And when you look at the total dollars that the Reds are spending, it seems like there might be money left to spend. We're going to talk about that coming up next.
The wild card round for the NFL is here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts that you can apply to the bets that you like the most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts that you want to apply. The boost lets you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. You make your picks, then apply your profit boosts to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. Thank you for making Locked On Reds your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On Reds the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Reds with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more. All for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonreds.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. I was ready to bet
you know, Jeff, I promise it's not my first day. I don't know what's going on today.
We're just all off. It's the arbitration thing. It's got us all rattled.
It's talking all this money and numbers, and you got me all discombobulated today. All right, let's get into this, because we look at the totals that the Reds spent last year on payroll. We look at what they've talked about spending this year. We know what everybody else signed for yesterday, and you start to add all these numbers up, and you look at where the Reds are, and you've kind of sussed out that there is, in fact, money to spend, which Nick Kroll told us a couple weeks ago.
Right.
And you have a pretty good path to what the Reds could do to pull together enough money to maybe go get a bopper like a Eugenio Suárez.
So to preface all of this, there are multiple numbers that I see on multiple different sites. And so I'm kind of looking at the average of these numbers and things like this. I'm going by the tax payroll. There's different numbers. There's the cash payroll. There's the tax payroll. From what I can gather, cash payroll is just for the active roster. Tax payroll brings into account dead money. So Jeimer Candelario, the options that they had to pay out on Brent Suter and Scott Barlow and Austin Hayes, all of that is added together for the tax payroll number. So these are the numbers that we're looking at. According to what I'm looking at, the Reds are right now, and this includes the 6 and change that they'll give to Tyler Stephenson and the 1 and change that they'll give to Graham Ashcraft, whichever those are. It's around $130 million. Last year, at the end of the year, after incentives were paid out and all of this other stuff, the Reds were at $140 million. At the beginning of this offseason, Nick Kroll said the payroll will look largely similar to what it was last year. So it's going to be around $140 million when it's all said and done. We're probably looking at around $10 million right now is what the Reds have. It could be a little bit less. It could be a little bit more. You give or take probably about $2 million is where I would say, because none of this is public. This is all a lot of projections and things like that. So when it comes to what the Reds have left to spend, it's clear to me that they have options, whether it be on the free agent market if they want to go get Reese Hoskins, or if they want to clear up a little bit more payroll, because they could potentially trade 2 guys that they have now agreed to contract, concrete deals for through this process. Brady Singer and Gavin Lux. If you trade both those guys and free up that payroll, Brady Singer at $12.75 million for him, and Gavin Lux at $5.25 million for him, you put that together, you're freeing up another $18 million. If you bring back a major leaguer, that's fine. Take off like $1 million or $2 million. Or if not, then that's cool too. Then you just take the 18, you add to the 10, you go get a Eugenio Suárez, and then you might even have a little bit left over. You go get another relief pitcher. That feels to me better. And I think it would go a lot longer of a way to improve this team than just going with the roster that they currently have.
This doesn't feel as far-fetched. I'm sure a lot of people's innocent reactions are, well, who's taking Gavin Lux at that price, blah, 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 blah. I feel like there's a prime opportunity here to package the two together. Find a contender that's pitching desperate right now and tell them, we'll take less of a return, but you have to take both contracts of Gavin Lux and Brady Singer. Here's our deal. You give us a AA guy, a AAA guy back that has some potential. We call it a day and we get Gino on the phone. That doesn't sound that hard. That seems pretty doable.
And it feels, it feels fantasy baseball-esque to the point that I'm sure if we pitch that idea ourselves to Nick Krall, the first thing he would say is, well, we got to fill Brady Singer's spot, which to that we have said multiple times, we feel like the Reds have good starting pitcher depth.
You got Rhett Lauder. Rhett Lauder's sitting there right now, not in anybody's top 5 to start for this team.
You would be lose ace to start the year. Yeah. Like that would be easy to put him in there. And if you say, okay, well, maybe he's not ready, whatever. Brandon Williamson, do that. Julian Aguiar, do that. Chase Petty for a little bit until one of those guys is ready, or maybe he blossoms into the guy that we hope he could be. Like, there's a lot of ways that the Reds could go about this and get creative, but it would require them to take a risk, which is something that Nick Krall has just yet to do in his tenure of running this front office. And so that's the part for me that gives me pause in all of this, where it seems like it's simple dollars and cents, but at the end of the day, it feels like it's going to add risk to Nick Krall's plate, in which I don't think that he should be that worried about, but I know that he is going to be worried about that, because like the way that the Reds were able to structure their payroll after Friday or after Thursday, like I feel like there is an opportunity to make a move here. He's just got to be risk, he's got to not be risk averse, and he's got to be a little bit creative.
I wonder, let me ask you this. Is it a better version of the Reds if they do that? If they trade Brady Singer, combine him with Gavin Lux, bring in Eugenio Suárez, or if they keep Brady Singer and go spend that money for Reese Hoskins, for one of these other guys that you talked about? Which version of the Reds do you like better there?
I still think I like the Suárez version a little bit more. But, I mean, Reese Hoskins to me, he just reeks of a comeback, reeks of a bounce back. The only thing is he would just jump into the overwhelming pool of bounce back candidates that the Cincinnati Reds seem to employ every single year. But you could conceivably retain your amazing starting pitcher depth and just sign Reese Hoskins, and you move Gavin Lux to that role that I think that he best suits, which is utility guy who can give you a base hit off the bench.
And you get him out of that DH role we talked about yesterday.
Right, because I don't love the idea of him getting, like, I don't know that I want him getting as many at-bats as Santiago Espinal had last year. Like, Santiago Espinal, people forget, and as well that they should, and I would love to forget it, but I can't because, well, this is what I do. He got 328 plate appearances last year, Steve. Like, what are we doing? Although Gavin Lux got more than that. He got 503 plate appearances. But I just don't know that the best version of the Reds is giving 500 plate appearances to Gavin Lux. I just don't.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, Jeff, because the money is there. We didn't make up this word, they've got to get creative. That's what Nick Krall told us they were going to do when they dangled Kyle Schwarber in front of us, when they teased us with Kyle Schwarber. We weren't adding to payroll. We were going to get creative. Well, get creative. Get something done. Sign somebody. Make this team better. Because as you pointed out, the numbers for the contracts that the Reds have to spend are going to go up and up and up and up now that these guys are hitting arbitration. We're going to talk here in a few minutes about a big one that's going to hit the books next year, but these numbers are going to get bigger. Everybody's numbers got bigger with the players that just signed to avoid arbitration. I suspect that Graham Ashcraft's number is going to get bigger and he's going to win. Whatever Tyler Stephenson does, it's going up to 6 million. That's going to get bigger. They have a time to strike right now before a lockout, before there's a shutdown, before they can really cry poor. They can win right now. They just have to get creative. Nick Krall has to go out and do it and get it done right now.
And I don't think, like, we're not saying get creative and put together like some sort of like, I don't know, like crazy piece of artwork that nobody's ever seen before. This is more like color by numbers here. Free up money with a trade, go sign a free agent. 1-2 step. Like, that's all you got to do here. And I have doubts as to if that will happen. I've got some more ideas. You can be a little bit more creative and do some different things that we will discuss, especially as we get into next week and get closer to Reds Fest and things like that. But I do feel like the Reds now have their marching orders and should be ready to go, because quite frankly, if they don't go this year, the money's getting more expensive next year with Elly De La Cruz and with Hunter Greene. This payroll is going to get a lot more tight for an already tight payroll franchise.
Let's be real. Managing your finances can feel overwhelming. Between subscriptions you forgot about, bills that keep going up, and trying to figure out where all your money actually goes each month, it's easy to feel like you're losing control. And who has time to track every transaction or hunt down the hidden fees? That's where Rocket Money comes in, the personal finance app that helps you take control. It finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills as you can grow your savings. I love their automatic transaction categorization feature, and it's a game changer, really. I can find and see exactly where all my money is going each and every month. You can set budgets, you can set goals, you get personalized insights and receive real-time alerts on large transactions, upcoming bills, and low balances. It even consolidates your checking, savings, loans, and investments into a single dashboard so you can get a clearer view of your entire financial picture. If you want to get started today, just visit Rocket Money. They can help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/locked on. That's rocketmoney.com/locked on. One more time, rocketmoney.com/locked on. If you can't watch us here on YouTube, you can listen to us on the audio feeds. We're on every single podcasting app out there. You can take us in the car, take us to the gym, take us on the road. You can take us wherever you want to go. And over there on the audio side, if you want an ad-free experience, join the Everydayer Club. $5 a month. The link for that's down in the show description. Check it out. If you're an audio listener, this is for you. Give it a try today. All right, Jeff. The Harb numbers are going to get big, buddy. We're seeing some big numbers in places like Detroit right now. The Reds don't have that type of player and like Skubal and hitting the Arbs this year, but next year, a face of the franchise, a face of Major League Baseball is becoming arbitration eligible. And if he plays this whole season on two healthy legs, he's going to get a big raise next year.
Yeah, Elly De La Cruz will hit arbitration after this season. Now, what that might look like, that could change. We don't know. But it's clear he's going to get a bigger raise than going from, whatever it was last year, $775,000 to $800,000 this year. It's probably going to jump up to 3, 4, 5. Who knows? Like, first year arbitration jumps. If you're really good, we haven't seen that in a while here in Cincinnati. There's some guys that took really big jumps in other places. So I would expect to see that with Elly De La Cruz, because I expect to see him just absolutely ball out this year. But on top of that, Steve, the Reds will be adding $7 million to Hunter Greene's number next year. This year, it's just a little bit over $8 million. I think it's like 8.33 or something like that. Next year, it's over $15 million. So you're talking about the possibility if say Elly De La Cruz jumps into the $7 million range, you're talking about adding $14 million to the payroll next offseason without adding any players. Mm-hmm. And that's okay, sure, maybe that's just Brady Singer's money coming off the books if they don't trade him this offseason. But there's a lot of things that are going to be moving around here where this young team that was young and controllable and pre-arb and, they had all this talent and all this promise. It's now being whittled down as we're seeing some of that promise really kind of fizzle out. If you're talking about like guys like Christian Encarnacion Strand, or it's going to not be cheap anymore. And so the Reds are really going to have to figure out how to build this team. And I honestly think this puts more pressure on this offseason than it puts on next offseason.
And we didn't even talk about other guys that could see substantial raises if this goes good for the Reds in 2026. Spencer Steer will get a much bigger jump next year if he has a whole healthy season and doesn't play half the year with a wrecked shoulder. Matt McLean is going to get a much bigger jump next year than he got this year if he plays anywhere in between who he was last season and who he was in his rookie year. Anywhere in there is going to get him a big jump. So it's more than just those two that are going to drive this number up. And it's really why it's frustrating that the Reds have been seemingly lackadaisical in addressing the needs of this team this year, because this is really their last chance to apply that creativity we talked about in the last segment and get something done to get this team ready to go and make a legitimate, serious playoff run this year, and not just a playoff appearance where you look around the room and clearly see, well, this is not going to go well because the like, who invited the Reds to this party? That's kind of the vibe that the last playoffs had, right? And right. I want the Reds to go into the playoffs and be considered a possibility to win. I want to see them win a division. I want to see them win a playoff series. So the time to act is now, because all of these guys are going to get more expensive. The deal with Hunter Greene looks more and more and more like a win for this team, for the Reds getting it done when they did, because if he puts up numbers this year like he did last year, and let's just even call it 25 starts, that arbitration jump would have been massive. So the fact that the Reds at least have it as a known number, a controlled number, they know exactly what to plan for, that's really looking like a smart move at this point.
And one other guy that I forgot to mention as well, who's going to be arbitration eligible next year, Andrew Abbott. He's going to get a big raise too.
He's going to get paid.
Yeah, that's money that the Reds are going to add to guys that they will already have on the roster. And so there's so much about the way that the roster building, and there's a reason that we've been so critical, because I feel like there's a lot of folks that are just like, man, it feels like you guys have had a tone change this offseason. And I think it's just because we continue to see the Reds do the same thing over and over and over again and expect different results. And if they do that this year, going into this season, and they do another wild card entry exit, you know, that gif of the Simpsons of the guy like taking off his coat and his hat, turning around, grabbing his coat and his hat and walking back out. If that's again what we see for them, I have doubts about what this is going to look like moving forward, because as much as Nick Krall doesn't want to call it a contention window, they are in their contention window right now. And if they do not maximize it, this window will be cracked open for a very little bit of time, and it will be shut just as quickly as it opened. And we will once again be wondering, what is the plan moving forward? Because as much as we know that this is, I mean, honestly, and I want to be shocked. I want to be wrong. I want to be surprised, but I would be absolutely dumbfounded if this isn't the last year for Tyler Stephenson in a Reds uniform. We know for a fact that once Elly de la Cruz hits his free agency year, that's it. We ain't seeing more of him either. Mm-hmm. So they've got to build around him, and that is why it's just starting to weigh on me so much. And I'm less optimistic sounding this offseason than I have been in years past, because it doesn't feel like things are changing at the rate that they need to change.
Yeah, I think we continue to point out realistic fixes this team can make, and it's just infuriating that they don't do them. And you know, I know if you and I see it and can look at it on paper, there are people in the building, there are people in this front office that are making these points too. But the three guys that have the ultimate decision making, which is Nick Krall and then the Castellinis, they're just not pulling the trigger. And the time is now. They have to act now. I look at these ARB numbers and what they're going to do, and just, you know, you talk about Andrew Abbott, just to put a bow on what I was talking about with Detroit. Skubal got an offer in arbitration this year of little over $19 million. And
would have been close to the record for pitchers,
right?
But
for a pitcher, rejected it and countered for arbitration at well over $30 million. He's trying to get the all-time record for an arbitration amount, and I think he probably wins. He's going to win, because it's not like the arbitrator is going to come in there and can set a number in the middle. It's either the 19 or the 32. And I think that he's going to get the 32, which is why I also think Graham Ashcraft's going to get the 1.75. I just think the arbiter is going to look at the case and go, yeah, we're paying you that. And same in Detroit. These are the kind of numbers that can go when a player is elite. And not that Andrew Abbott's going to get $32 million, but he's going to get a huge jump when he hits arbitration.
A huge jump that will really hurt a team that likes to approach financials like the Reds. Like, I think that there are some teams that you would say, yeah, whatever, that jump, it's a jump. Sure, it's a jump. But like for the Reds that really like to make sure that there's a certain amount of money that they got here, there, and everywhere, there's going to be a lot of money that they got to pay out through arbitration and a lot of money that they got to pay out through raises to Hunter Greene next year. I think, Ke'Bryan Hayes stays the same. He's not going to see a huge raise, and Jose Trevino stays the same. And those are the guys who are the guaranteed money on the books. And then there's a player option for Emilio Pagan at $10 million next year that he could very well pick up because it seems like he really likes it here. But honestly, like it feels as though we are coming into a time where if the Reds don't go for it now, they're going to have to do that whole get creative about roster building in the Reds way. And we know what that means. That means they cut money and they cut money. They don't add, they just cut money so that they can keep other guys.
And on that happy note, that is where we're going to go ahead and wrap it up.
Hey, talking about money. I hate it.
I know. This is the worst part of the year. It's the least fun thing to cover. But thanks for tuning in to Locked On Reds today. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Reds so you get all of the latest episodes. You can follow me at S. Offenbaker. That's with 2 F's on X. You can follow Jeff on the same platform over on X at Jeff Carr. Jeff with 3 F's. He learned to spell in Alabama. Sorry. You can also follow the show at Locked On Reds. There's no F's in that. We finally got that one taught to Jeff. No problem at all. For the folks that are watching us here on video, we're going to send you over to Locked On's first ever 24/7 national Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. That is a mouthful, but it's a fun show. Continuous sports coverage over there from the folks here at Locked On. Go check that out. If you're on audio, make sure you go make your second listen. Locked On MLB, Sully bringing you Major League Baseball from a national standpoint, from the wide, big perspective that he's very good at presenting. Go check that out today. Until next time, you know that Jeff and I are going to keep you Locked On Reds every single day. I know how they could save money. Could they send Ke'Bryan Hayes to like Colorado for a 24-pack of Coors Light and I don't know, some like peanuts, fry box coupon?
Michael Lorenzen's in Colorado now. Maybe they could eat Lorenzen's contract and send him here for Ke'Bryan Hayes.
Deal.